Hey everyone, welcome to another preview and predictions video. The team that we're going to be taking an in-depth look at today is our 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes team. We're going to do a complete preview of their entire roster, seeing what pieces they lost from last season, what pieces they're adding to this year's team, but also taking a look at their 2024 football schedule, trying to predict the outcome for every single game and trying to predict their final record for the 2024 season. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will also make sure to respond. So our 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes. This is one of two teams that if you ask anyone in the country who's a shoo-in for the playoffs, they'll give you the same two teams. They'll give you the Georgia Bulldogs and they'll give you the Ohio State Buckeyes. So the Buckeyes are coming up with some of the largest expectations in the entire country. A lot of people are slating them down to make the national championship or win the national championship. So the expectations are through the roof for this season, but it's deservedly so. They've had a lot of changes this offseason. Vegas has them coming in at 10.5 wins, so they have them as one of the best performing teams for the 2024 season, and this team is loaded, both coaching staff as well as roster-wise. Lots of changes. So the quarterback, Kyle McCord, he didn't have a bad season last year, but I would say he was probably the weakest link on the 2023 team. He's off to Syracuse now, and you have Will Howard transferring in from Kansas State. This is a guy who's won the Big 12 before. He's performed big in big-time games for Texas, Oklahoma, so he's played tough teams before, so nothing will come as a surprise for him. He also provides a massive change of pace. He can throw, but it's mainly his mobility that's going to be a massive factor, a game changer, because that's something that the Buckeyes did not have last season, was a mobile quarterback who could get out when they were feeling pressure and who could throw while scrambling. Chip Kelly, to me, this is the biggest move. He is now the offensive coordinator. So he steps down as a head coach at the Bruins, comes over to the Buckeyes as an offensive coordinator. This is one of the greatest offensive minds in college football history. This guy single-handedly brought the spread hurry-up offense mainstream in all of college football. He's basically the godfather of that for modern college football, and he's the offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes. The things that he will be able to do with this roster is going to be incredible. The things that he's going to be working with: a very deep running back room, a great quarterback, and an extremely deep wide receiver core. This is a top 3 overall college football roster in all of college football. Immense talents there. They have probably what's going to be the best total defense in all of college football for this season. They have 9 starters coming back for a defense that finished number 3 in all of football last year, and they're a year older in the system now, so they'll be even better. This team is surefire. They're a shoo-in for the playoffs. Question is, are they also going to win the Big Ten this year on top of getting in the playoffs? We need to see continued improvement on the offensive line. Chip Kelly is going to work wonders there as he dials up plays specifically towards their strengths. The wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's off to the NFL, but they still have Egbuka, and they're bringing in Jeremiah Smith, the 5-star, the number 1 wide receiver in the entire country. This may also be one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver room in the country. You have Trevion Henderson coming back, and you also added Quinton Junkins on top of that, transferring over from Ole Miss. That's an incredible 1-2 punch there. Chip Kelly has had a lot of great teams he's made the national championship for, but this is the best offensive roster that he's ever had the chance to coach. He's going to light it up. They're easily going to have a top 3 offense. And the defense. There's not much that you can say about defensive coordinator Jim Knowles' defense. This is a 4-2-5 defense, 9 starters back. They're probably going to have the number 1 defense in all of college football. And they added Caleb Downs from Alabama to an already elite unit. They have lots of guys that are going to be drafted. Pretty much the whole defense will go to the NFL. You have Downs, Jack Sawyer, JT, Williams, Simon, Styles, Ransom, Burke, Hancock. They can play on all levels on defense. They can play on the D-line, linebacker, secondary. They're all elite. Let's take a look at their schedule just to kind of run through that real quick. They kick things off August 31st versus the Akron Zips. This is a warm-up game. Get the offense some reps in the new system. They're going to blow them out. It's going to be bad. It's going to be 62 to 3, they're 1-0. September 7th versus Western Michigan Broncos. Western Michigan, sometimes they do light things up. Occasionally, they also do run an air raid offense, but they're not going to be able to do it versus the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are going to get too much pressure on them. They're going to win this game 50-10, and they're 2-0. Then September 21st versus the Marshall Thundering Herd. Marshall, they're not going to be able to compete. There's a massive talent gap here. They're going to blow them out. Let's put this one at a 50-10 game, and they're 3-0. September 28th at the Michigan State Spartans. So now we're starting to get into Big Ten conference play. The competition is going to be getting a little more difficult, but Michigan State's been completely shredded in the offseason. They have Smith taking over as the head coach. They have a 5-star quarterback coming in, but they're almost having to flip their entire roster. So there's going to be a really big gap here. They're going to beat them pretty bad. Let's put it at a 48-7 game, and they're 4-0. Then after that, October 5th versus the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa always comes in here with a top 10 defense and atrocious offense that usually finishes around 125th in the country. They did fire Ferentz on the offensive side, so Kirk Ferentz has now run more of a throwing passing offense. So we're going to see a bit of a game changer here, but that's a massive change in what they used to run. So the roster is probably going to take a little while to adapt to that. They will still have a top 20 defense, but the offense is going to take a couple years to catch up. Ohio State's going to beat them. Let's put it at a 30-14 game, and they're 5-0. After that, October 12th at the Oregon Ducks. So they're going to Oregon, a little bit of a homecoming for Chip Kelly here. This is a tough game. So the Oregon Ducks, obviously new to the Big Ten, coming over from the now defunct Pac-12, and they are loaded. They also have a top 5 roster. They're going to be top 5. This could easily be a number 1 versus number 2 or number 1 versus number 3 matchup here in the entire country. This is one of the best, if not the best game of the entire college football season. This is going to be a big one. Oregon, they're loaded. They have Dylan Gabriel. Like I said, top 5 roster. They have a top 10 offense. They're going to have a top 10 defense. And a lot of Big Ten fans think that Oregon can't compete in the trenches, but you're going to be wrong. They're built on the offensive line, and they're extremely stacked on the D line in the trenches. They can run downhill. They can spread them out. They can air it out. They can do whatever they need to do. And Dylan Gabriel is the Heisman front runner right now preseason, and he's going to put up Heisman-like numbers. But the Buckeyes are, to me, this is their game to lose. As long as Will Howard performs as advertised, which we haven't seen yet, we haven't seen him in this system, I think the Buckeyes are going to take this game, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a 30-27. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter, the last possession. I have the Buckeyes winning that, and they're 6-0. Then October 26th versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. You have Matt Rule there. You have a 5-star quarterback coming in, a little change on offense. They had a top 20 defense last year. The offense was pathetic, but they had 7 games they lost by 1 possession. Just too many turnovers from the quarterback. But they have a new quarterback now. So we're going to see changes there. I think Nebraska's a 7 or 8 win team. They're going to be getting better every year. Matt Rule's a great coach, but they're just not going to be there this year. But I think their defense should be able to keep the game respectable, at least for the first 2 to 3 quarters, and then the Buckeyes take over. I have the Ohio State Buckeyes winning this one. Let's put it at a 27-17 game, and they're 7-0. And then after that, November 2nd at Penn State. Penn State is also loaded. There's going to be a top 10 on top 10 matchup. They're also going to have a top 10 defense. They had the number 1 total defense last season. They bring a lot of guys back, but Manny Diaz is gone. Drew Waller's still there, and they also have one of the best running back rooms in the country. They're going to be looking to run it down the Buckeyes' throat, but you're running into the Buckeyes' strength, which is their line. Secondary is great, but the line is really where it's at. They get after the quarterback. They shut the run game down. There's going to be a low-scoring victory for the Buckeyes. Could Penn State steal this one? Definitely. I could easily see Penn State also making the playoffs this year, but I'm going to go with the Buckeyes taking this one in a really low-scoring one, 24-17. They're 8-0. November 2nd versus the Purdue Boilermakers. Obviously, massive talent gap here. It's going to be a blowout. They're going to beat Purdue 47-10. And they're 9-0. November 16th at the Northwestern Wildcats. They were a surprise team last year, came out of nowhere, won 8 or 9 games. No one saw them doing that after Fitzgerald got fired, but they're not going to be able to compete with the Buckeyes. They're going to blow them out. Let's say a 34-13 game, and the Buckeyes are 10-0. After that, November 23rd, versus the Indiana Hoosiers. This is going to be a blowout here. They're marching their way towards the Big Ten championship right now. They're going to steamroll through them 40-17, 11-0. Final game of the year, the big one, the defining game, November 30th, versus the Michigan Wolverines. This is a huge game. Harbaugh is obviously off to the NFL. You have McCarthy off to the NFL. They only have one starter back on their entire offense, but they are the defending national championships. They're still going to have an elite defense, a top 10 defense. Jerome Moore takes over as the head coach. He's proven he has what it takes to coach in the big time when he filled in for Harbaugh for those 3 to 4 games last season. The team's going to be ready to play. Ryan Day has to win this game. If he loses to Michigan again, what is this, the 4th straight year without Harbaugh, with a whole new team, with the national championship aspirations they have, people are going to be coming for his head. But I think he gets it off of his shoulders. He gets the pressure off of him this year. This is Ohio State's year to beat Michigan. Everything is in their favor this season. I have the Buckeyes finally doing that, beating Michigan in a lower scoring game. Somewhat lower scoring. I have them winning 28-17, finishing the regular season 12-0, marching their way off to the Big Ten championship, making sure they'll of course make the playoffs. But I also have them playing the Big Ten championship potentially versus either Michigan, Penn State, or maybe a rematch versus Oregon. So that's my breakdown of our 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will respond. Thanks.